Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Parenting 411, where we dive into the nitty-gritty of parenting and blending compassion, understanding, and a whole lot of heart. I have to say that I feel fortunate to have with me today someone who can give us real insight about stress management, particularly for working women, including moms. And I feel like our conversation is particularly timely as we examine stress and its impact on Black women. Like many in the Black community, I am still reeling from the news of another Black woman in a senior position in academia feeling unsupported, bullied, and just pushed to her limit. I am speaking of Dr. Antoinette Candia Bailey, who died by suicide after repeated requests to have administrators and officials address allegations of workplace trauma, including bullying, during her tenure as Vice President of Student Affairs at Lincoln University of Missouri. So with me today is Dr. Akhu, a beacon of wisdom in the realms of psychology, spirituality, and stress management. Dr. Akhu is a licensed clinical psychologist who has carved a niche in helping individuals navigate the complexities of trauma and stress, especially within the Black community. Her work with the NYPD hostage negotiator team and her groundbreaking community, Sister Peace, are just a few of the highlights of her illustrious career. As a mom and a former president of the New York Association of Black Psychologists, she brings a unique perspective on managing the multifaceted pressures faced by Black women today, particularly in the workplace. In her latest book, Cultivating Inner Peace, a Sustainable System for the Professional Black Woman, Dr. Akhu offers insights that promise to resonate with so many of us. So let's just dive in and learn more about her journey, her work, and how we all can find a bit more peace in our hectic lives. Welcome, Dr. Akhu.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, this is very timely. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy to be here today to support all of our listeners. Every single listener can deal with stress better, but especially Black women who have so much on our shoulders. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you start, by telling us a bit about your journey and what inspired you to start Sister Peace?
All right. Of course, the journey is long, so I'm going to try to make this very long journey a shorter story. And I'd like to start with just a moment in time. Imagine with me, if you would, a really dark room, and me sitting there in the middle of the night. So it's dark outside, the room is dark. I am sitting there with a long sleeve of Oreo cookies
Oh,
and a cup of rice milk. I'm
mm,
vegan, and believe it or not, Oreo cookies are vegan. And I hear this blink, blink, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this house has another leak. And I realize that the house isn't leaking, I'm leaking. I'm
mm,
crying. I'm crying in my rice milk because I am so overwhelmed. I'm so
mm,
overwhelmed. This was 2008, that year that there was the stock market crash. That was a year that I had a personal crash. Um, and a lot of it having to do with motherhood. So that year I got remarried, I got pregnant for the second time. We bought a new house, and we the plan was to sell a house in Brooklyn, which was like 45 minutes, an hour away from our new house. But because of the stock market crash, we couldn't sell the house. So we had
mm.
to renovate, and I became a landlord for the first time. I moved my private practice to our new location. Um, I but went on bed rest. And for anybody that's listening, if you're busy, especially a busy person, bed rest is not restful. It's misnamed. So I went
True.
on bed rest, and still my baby was born 6 weeks early.
Hmm,
So I had a preemie, and
mm,
preemie. And if that's not all, and I'm probably missing a few things, managing a teenager in this second marriage as well. If that's not all, before the year is out, someone very close to me also was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh,
So
mhm.
I was totally overwhelmed. And that night, crying in my rice milk, I realized I have to do something different. I can't, like, it's embarrassing to admit as a psychologist, I was managing my stress with Oreo cookies.
Mhm,
Again,
mhm,
they're vegan, but I don't know if they really qualify as
mhm.
food, as yummy as
Right,
they are. And
right.
before I knew it, I gained so much weight. I weighed more than I did when I had my baby, and she was premature, but not that premature.
Mhm,
So it was at that moment I was like, something's got to change. I went back into therapy myself. And I realized that between marriages, I had created this incredible stress managing system because divorce is stressful and being a single
sure.
parent is stressful. But I was able to put my daughter to bed early, go to bed early myself, get up early. So I would get up at like 4:30 in the morning. I'd spend a half an hour meditating and praying. I'd spend another half an hour or so reading spiritual things and psychological things, and then another good half an hour, 45 minutes exercising.
Mm,
All of that before I woke my daughter up and got her off to school. So
mhm,
every day I was getting really good stress management and self care before I started my work day, before I started taking care of my child. I could not do that in this new life. I had a premature infant. I had
mhm,
a husband. I had a teenager. I had two houses that were both needed renovations. I had my work. There was no way that I could get up and spend an hour and a half on just me.
right.
But when I went back to therapy, I realized there's another way to do this. You can break that hour and a half up across the day in these little teeny things that you can do in order to manage stress. And I did that. And the next year was so different. The stresses didn't change. If anything, in some ways, the stresses increased. That premature baby had physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy.
Mhm,
Sometimes there were two therapists coming to the house on the same day.
right.
The person with cancer then had to have surgery, and the surgery, when we were told that the surgery did not get all of the cancer and that chemo would be needed or radiation would be needed, I
Mhm,
didn't eat Oreo cookies. I was really able to manage the stress because I had found a different method of small things that I could do all the time to
right.
manage my stress. So that's how just that was kind of the what I started doing and realizing that more than anyone, again, everybody needs stress management, but most of my caseload as a clinical psychologist were Black women. And
Right.
so I started teaching them some of these same techniques and saw how effective it was. And that's what led me to writing my book and starting Sister Peace and really wanting to focus on helping all people, anybody that comes to me, I want to help them with stress management, but especially helping other Black women like me who have been just so overwhelmed
Mhm,
because I don't want anybody else
mhm.
to die by suicide
Yeah.
when there is support and help out there for them.
Right, right. And your work in stress management is extensive. Your personal work in stress management is also considerable. So, talk about how the your approach is unique and particularly accessible for Black women.
My approach is unique because it really focuses on what busy people can do. I
Right.
think that when many of us think about stress management, you think of going away to a spa, and think of all of these things that are time and expensive. Expensive in time, expensive in money. And my approach is helping people figure out how to add to their already hectic lives, how to add in small tweaks, little things that they can do in order to keep stress, which we all have stress. We can't get rid of stress,
Mhm.
but what we can do is we can manage it so it doesn't become chronic, which then becomes toxic. And one of the things that we know is that for Black women,
Mhm.
we have disproportionately higher rates of stress exacerbated illnesses like diabetes and high blood pressure. And women of color are also perpetually underpaid and often work in service fields like nursing, which is stressful.
Mhm.
and have to contend with intersectionality and bias. That means that we all have higher exposure to stress than many others, which is why I think it's so important that especially Black women focus on stress management.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think with the way you talk about it, is similar to the way I talk about it with moms. It's like about creating these pockets of peace in their day.
Yes.
And to not think of stress management or self-care as something that has to be planned, it has to be expensive, it has to be a way, but really understanding that you can practice self-care and manage your stress in your daily life throughout the day. I mean, you might have a morning ritual, but there are things you can do throughout the day as well to create, really inner peace. So, um, what would you say about that? What does it mean to you, and how crucial is it for overall well-being?
Oh, I love what you said and the work that you're already doing with women. That yes, especially when you're a parent, like because parenting just takes up so much energy. It's
Mhm,
those little things that can make a big difference in integrating them within your everyday life, no matter how hectic your life is. That you can integrate these tools. So that's what I focus on. And inner peace to me doesn't mean that you are happy all the time, smiling all the time, don't have any problems, never have stress, because that's not realistic. We all have stress. Inner peace really means knowing yourself well, and
right.
knowing what you need to keep yourself kind of, at a good level,
Mhm,
and having the tools to do that, as
mhm,
well as the tools to get back to your base level when things rock you off your base, when big stressors come, to know how to get back to
mhm,
that base level. Those are the things that I think we don't always realize, and we're not always planful about these kinds of things. So understanding that there are little things that you can do,
mhm,
and really making sure that you're aware of them and that you are then also actually doing them. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes I talk to people all the time. It's like, I know what to do, but then why aren't you doing it? Right. So
right.
really supporting each other in,
Mhm.
you know, doing the things that we know work for us.
Right. And I'm so glad that more and more people are talking about this. This morning, I was just scrolling through Instagram and I saw where this professional model, actually, she's a Black professional model. I mean, I remember her, kind of grew up with her. We are about the same age, and she was popular during that time, when I was a teen and early 20s. And she was explaining, hey, I'm back. I know you all haven't seen me for a while, but I had to go away. I just had to take this time uh, to do that for me. And, now I feel great and all of that. But it's great to just step back and see she's someone that has a huge following, and she could have very easily said, well, I can't step away because what will my followers think, what will happen to endorsements or anything like that that she has. But she did step away for about 6 or 7 months, and but she did that because she needed to do that for her well-being. And I was really proud of myself to yesterday or the day before, I can't remember, but I was on Facebook, and so there was someone that I friended because they reached out. We had gone to the same school, and I saw that many of my classmates were friends with him, and so okay, well, okay, I'll accept the friend request. Maybe I knew him, but maybe just don't quite remember him right now. So what the heck?
Mhm.
Well, that was probably about a year ago. But over the time, just about any time I post something, he chimes in with something very sarcastic. And I'm just kind of like, dude, why?
Mhm.
So I posted something yesterday or the day before, and he did it again. And I was like, I barely know you. I mean, this is what I'm thinking. I
Mhm.
barely know you. Like, why is this guy even in my friend circle? So I promptly unfriended and blocked.
Mhm.
I was like, why am I subjecting myself? And it was actually, it just wasn't anything abusive, but annoying. And I'm like, why do I have to take that in?
I
And it's especially from someone I really don't know. So I thought that was good for my mental health to remove him from my space. And we should really just do more of that. How often do we tolerate things that people say? And this could even be friends, family, in-laws, anything. Just you just take that on or you ignore it just to keep the peace, but it's everybody else's peace, not your peace.
exactly.
We'll be right back after this. If you're looking to reach a massive audience of parents and caregivers, then look no further than ProPix by the Parenting 411, the ultimate marketing program designed to skyrocket your brand to new heights. With ProPix, we've created 3 incredible packages to suit your marketing needs and budget. So let's take a look. First up is our social starter package. You'll receive a stunning graphic promo piece, plus we'll also feature your brand on the Parenting 411 Instagram page. It's the perfect way to make a memorable first impression and get parents buzzing about your business. Now, if you're ready to level up, our Parenting Pro package is where it's at. You'll enjoy all the benefits of the social starter package, plus more awesome benefits, including exposure on the Parenting 411 podcast, which reaches parents in more than 22 countries each week. But wait, there's more. For those seeking the pinnacle of marketing power, our Elite Exposure package is the way to go. You'll get even more exposure across our platform, including thousands of followers and connections on LinkedIn. Get ready to dominate the airwaves and establish yourself as the go-to resource for families everywhere. Take advantage of ProPix by the Parenting 411 today and unlock unparalleled marketing opportunities for your business. But I should tell you that prices are set to increase on November 1st, so act now. ProPix by the Parenting 411 is your passport to the hearts and minds of parents. Visit ProPixbyP411.com. Join us today and watch the magic happen. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
So giving ourselves permission. Like I love both of those stories that you just told. The first one, the model giving herself permission to take a
Mm-hmm.
break.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If that's where her spirit is leading her, her guiding voice, her intuition, that she needs a break, to take that break, to follow that so that she honors her own mental health and her own needs. So important. And you giving yourself permission to say, this person's not adding to my world.
Right.
So if they're not adding to my world, why am I keeping them in it? And yes, we have every right to remove people, including sometimes family. Family can be more complicated. And one of the things I help people do is kind of figure out how they want to navigate those spaces sometimes
Sure.
with family that have caused trauma or might just be, a little more annoying, like that friend you mentioned. But giving
Mm-hmm.
ourselves permission to find a way to hold on to our inner peace, even in those challenging situations, instead of just accepting this is what it is and then having our peace disturbed. It's so important.
It is so important, and I mean, it's just been fascinating how when I have done that, finally made that hard call, and then I realize I don't even miss the people. I
Exactly.
mean, I'm sorry to say that. I
It
really don't
shows.
even miss them, and this also ties into, I don't know if you saw that segment with Michelle Obama. She's on the podcast with Jay Shetty, and the particular segment that someone inboxed me today talked about how you have to think about people in your circle. She was talking about how she tells her girls or told her girls growing up that she was very open to people. Like, you don't want to be closed off. You want to be welcoming to people, but um, when things turn toxic, even early on, make that cut early. You've got to make that cut early. And I responded to that post saying, I'm really big on being open, like bringing people in, welcoming people in, and really not cutting anybody off until, they cut me off or they drift away, but I'll always be here.
Mm.
And but I'm not good on, making that cut quickly when things really turn south and aren't good. I'm not good at making that cut quickly. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good at making that cut quickly, but
Okay.
this is my work, and I really also try to do all the same work that everything I suggest to everybody else, I do
Good
myself.
point. Good
Um,
point.
it's also I'm an introvert, so I think that makes it a little easier to make those cuts quickly because introverts we get our energy from being alone.
Mhm.
And extroverts get their energy from other being within in situations with other people. So
Right.
that where your energy comes from can also make it a little more challenging because if you get energy from being with other people, then it's harder to get rid of people. If you get energy from being yourself by yourself, then it's easier to curate who you're in connection with because it takes energy. Even when you love somebody and you totally enjoy being with them, it's
Mhm.
still an energy expenditure. But that's another topic, right? A
I
whole
know, I
podcast.
know. Yeah, we might have to bring you back on that one, but,
I
so
love it.
can you share some, techniques for mindfulness and relaxation that can be particularly effective and they're easy to practice during the day, that our listeners could try out?
I can definitely share some techniques, but before I share techniques, I'd actually like to share why certain techniques are so powerful.
Okay.
And my favorite way to do this, I do this all the time when I'm doing workshops, especially around mindfulness and stress management. And I do it sometimes with individuals as well, is the hand model. So just imagine for a second that this hand is your brain.
Mhm.
And this brain is going to be divided up into three areas. The bottom brain down here, which is your brain stem, the core. This is the same part we share with, say, lizards, right? So the lizard brain. This part is really known for keeping us alive and keeping us safe, but not known for emotions and happiness. Lizards are not very emotional creatures. And then we have the next part of the brain, which is the emotional center of the brain. It's the same part we share with my cat. So my cat gets scared and takes off. It's because of this part of the brain. And then lastly, we have the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is most developed in humans. This is the thinking part of the brain. This is the part of the brain that's going to think, okay, after we finish this podcast, am I going to go make lunch or am I going to order something because making something is more cost effective, but ordering might be faster and easier, right? This is the part of the brain that's going to make those decisions. The thing about our beautiful brains is the human brain treats things like an exam just like
Mhm.
it would treat something like a bear attack, right? So if a bear were to come running in this room where I am right now, the thinking part of my brain would disconnect. The emotion center, the fear, would send messages down to the lizard brain and say, oh, we're in danger. Do something. You're going
Mhm.
to either freeze so that the bear doesn't see me. I am going to run and try to get away from the bear, or I'm going to try to fight the bear. One of those three things is going to happen, but I don't have time to think about which of those three things is going to happen because if I stop to think about it, I'd be bear lunch.
Right.
So our brains are designed to go right to the fight, flight, and freeze, right, which is part of our nervous system.
Mhm.
And the thing is, though, as I said, this thinking part of the brain, if we think about a big exam, like the licensing exam I had to take to be a licensed clinical psychologist, right? That feels like one of those things that feels life threatening. So
Right.
it feels life threatening and it communicates down here to the feeling part of the brain that starts to activate the fight, flight, and freeze part of the nervous system. It says there's danger even though there's no physical danger, but
Right.
it makes it harder to think. This is why people, when they take exams and they study the all the information's in there, they get to the exam, they can't think of anything, they can't answer the questions, and then when the exam's over, when the threat is over, all the answers come flooding back.
Right.
It's the same system.
Mhm.
So this system is active when we are stressed. Right?
Right.
So stress, feeling whatever stress for whatever reasons, start to communicate to the emotion center and communicates to the lizard brain down here and starts to deactivate our ability to think well, to make good decisions during stress. And this is meant to be a short-term system. That's
Mhm.
why zebras don't get ulcers
Mhm.
because in the wild, if you're going to be attacked by a bear, you're either going to get away and then the situation's over, or you're going to get eaten by the bear and the situation's over.
Yeah.
And human beings, the exams, work stress, right? The being bullied, that's going to keep happening. And
Right.
that's going to keep activating the system and that's going to keep causing stress. And that's how stress goes from being just stress to being chronic to being toxic. Okay, so that all being said, that's the background. So what you need to do is you need to figure out how to relax this part of the brain, the nervous system.
Hmm.
How do you do that? Right. And especially easy ways that you can integrate into your everyday system. I teach, I teach many ways, but one of the main things that I teach, the first thing that I teach everybody is through the five senses, because we all have five senses. We all know about our five senses. And so in workshops, I love to do my dance. I usually get the audience up dancing. It keeps people from falling asleep. But also, like, when it's one of the things that I did is all the time as a parent with my little ones, I'm feeling stressed, put on some music and we're all dancing.
Yep.
Kids love to dance,
Yep.
right? And they think we're just having fun. They don't realize this is mommy working out her stress here.
Hmm.
So, and I still do that today. Right now, I'm sitting on a yoga ball. When I'm
Oh,
stressed
wow.
between sessions, I put on a good fast song and I'll bounce on my yoga ball. Right?
Okay.
So getting us moving, but music is really great for one of the senses. Um, and so really focusing on the five senses. Something else that I teach all the time is tea, right? Drinking tea can be
Hmm.
very soothing. And when I first started working on this stuff, even before I was so focused on it after, before my breakdown in 2008, when I first started just doing stress management as a psychologist, tea was it was much more complicated. There were not a lot of good companies that had tea formulas that you can get. You'd
Hmm.
have to go to you had to go to a specialty store, you had to go to a health food store. But now you can go to your local supermarket, and large supermarkets have whole aisles of teas, and there are stress reducing teas.
Yep.
So you can sip on the tea while you're in your meeting, right? You can sip
Hmm.
on the tea while you are playing with your kids. And that can help reduce your stress. It can help your nervous system relax and say there's no emergency here, no need for fight and flight.
Yep.
So that's an easy one. Music, tea, and then breathing is my favorite. So before we end today, because I know this was already a long answer, and I know there's so much more we want to talk about, but I
Mhm.
hope before we end today, I can do an example of an easy breathing exercise that's really effective, because the part of the fight, flight, and freeze system, the only part that we have conscious control over is our breath. We don't have control over our hearts beating faster and the blood gushing to our bodies so that we can
Good
run
point.
or we can
Hmm.
fight. The only part of that system we have conscious control over is our breath. So when we learn some easy breathing techniques, then we can really effectively reduce our stress no matter where we are. I mean, I do these things in the supermarket when I'm online, when I'm
Hmm.
driving in
Hmm.
the car, like, and it's free. Your breath is free. You have it, you breathe all the time, but you have to know how to breathe correctly in order to deactivate the fight, flight, and freeze system.
Hmm. Hmm. I love it. I love it. And I definitely I want you to talk about the breathing exercise before we close up. But so do you have like a particular success story that you could share where, uh, your stress management techniques really had a profound effect on that person's life?
Yeah, I like to tell you about Mia. Now, I changed her name for
Yep.
privacy's sake, and I'm removing anything that would identify her.
Sure.
So this is probably a good portion of your audience is living some version of Mia's life. Professional working woman, worked in corporate America at a job where she felt undervalued and experienced daily microaggressions.
Mhm.
Mia was also caring for her mother living with dementia, so and determined to keep her mom at home. So was spending time between Mia's home with her family, with her husband, and splitting her time going back and forth between her home with her husband and her mother's home, managing her mother's caregivers as her mother continued to experience dementia and declining health. She was married with two college age children when
Mhm.
we worked together. So you get this kind of she came to me because she was feeling overwhelmed and stressed and said that she remembered having inner peace, like and joy, and didn't know what happened to it, but wanted to
Mm.
get back to that person who was joyful and had inner peace. And so we did quite a few things together. We worked together for probably a good 6 months, actually, which, depending on how you think about it, on one hand is not that long, on the other hand is significant time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I did with Mia was I helped her clarify her values. Right?
Okay.
We did this whole exercise that I do with people to get them to think about what their values are, and to get down to the top 10 values. And that's important because one of the things that can cause stress is having to make big decisions. Like, do
Mm-hmm.
you work? Do you do extra work because money's really important to you and you want to take a fabulous vacation? Or do you, and I'm not talking about those of us who have no other choice that have to do extra work to pay the basic bills. I'm talking about when we do have choices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you want to do that extra vacation, or do you want to spend more time with your kids? Like, where are your values?
Right.
And understanding where your values are can help make those decisions a lot easier. So we did that. We clarified what her values are. And um, that helped her realize that the job that she currently had did not really fit with her values.
Oh,
There was a lot
wow.
of values clashes, and that was part of it. Wasn't the only thing that was causing her stress, but that was part of the stress she was experiencing because she was asked to do things that she didn't really like doing, or didn't feel like, fit with who she was.
Okay.
So that led us to having her start to look for a new employment, which by the time we ended up finished working together, she found a new job, which was a much better fit,
Hmm.
and really found that she was enjoying work again. Enjoying, one of the things that she wasn't able to do at the former job was connect with new people who were coming in, mentoring, but she was able to do that. That was a natural part of her new job. So mentoring new people, she liked the human connection, and
Mm.
that was really important to her, so that this new job fit with her values already. She was happier just with that. We also worked on doing things daily,
Mm-hmm.
to really help her manage her stress. Again, given her busy schedule with her ailing mom and college, all those her students were off at college. It doesn't mean they didn't need anything, and her husband and her job, but doing things like a bit of journaling, okay?
Mm.
Finding 5 minutes to do 5 minutes of journaling. I taught her the breath exercise that I'm going to show you in a little bit, and integrating that into her day, especially when she was starting to feel her shoulders climb to her ears, to know that just doing that breathing could bring them down.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of that during COVID. I teach the doctors that I was working with, because everybody was stressed during COVID. You have to go to the bathroom at some point. When you go, take 1 extra minute to breathe. Right?
Good
So
point.
finding a way to anchor doing something like a breathing exercise to something that you're already doing during your day is really helpful. So I taught Mia to incorporate breathing, and again, breathing in certain ways that really deactivate your fight, flight, and freeze system. And then to find some weekly stress management to fit in her life, so that she could go for a walk. Right, she would love to have gone for a walk every day, but that just wasn't fitting into her schedule. But at least once a week, she was able to build in time to get in a good long walk.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, helping her give herself permission and let go of guilt, and the I have tos and I shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
And a good example of this was church with her mom.
Okay.
Her mom, for all of her, all her life that Mia knew, mom went to church every Sunday. So
Mm-hmm.
even with dementia, Mia wanted to keep that going for her mom, but Mia didn't go to church every week. So
Mm.
taking her mom to church felt like, okay, it felt like another job.
Okay.
And us talking about it, she was doing it because she felt like she had to and she should. And we were able to talk about, well, your mom may need to go to church, but do you have to be the one to sit there with her for the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
I was able to help Mia shift things, so that then she was able to take her mom to church and have one of the elders from the church bring her mom home and sit with
Mm.
her. Her mom had been going to this church for like 40 something years. So
Right.
people knew her, and that there were other people who loved her mom that were willing to and wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
And so letting Mia allow other people to help in those spaces, so that now church didn't become a burden. So she could go and stay when she wanted to. but she didn't have to feel like she had to do this every week was so
Hmm.
important. That was a big space of inner peace for her to be able to
Wow.
let herself go from these I have tos and I shoulds to understand that things might need to be done, but we can have some flexibility about how they get done to balance
Yes.
out both what you want to have happen and what needs to happen and keeping your inner peace. So,
Hmm.
but by the time we finished, Mia had a job that was a much better fit that she enjoyed. Her mother actually died during our work together, and
Hmm.
um, I was able to help her
Do
through
that.
the grief process, um,
Hmm.
and some of the techniques that we came up with in terms of her inner peace were helpful. The breathing and so forth were really helpful as she was grieving and going through the funeral and all that stuff. So it was so wonderful working with her and seeing how much happier she was, even
Hmm.
going through grief by the end of our work.
Hmm. Well, that's a powerful story on a lot of different levels. I mean, even as you said, during your time with her, you were able to help her through that major loss. But something else that had come up too was that you said in that case your engagement with her was 6 months. But how does it routinely work? Do people get into a relationship or working relationship with a therapist that goes years, or um, is Mia's story more typical? 4 months, 6 months, or something like that?
It
Because
really
I think that's a huge thing for some people. Like they think, oh, once I get started, it's going to be 5 years before I get myself together, or whatever. So I would love to talk about that, hear about that. We'll be right back after this. Are you a parent looking to unlock your potential in raising confident, capable, and courageous children? Well, look no further. Join us at the upcoming Parent and Purpose Summit Back to School Edition, where parenting experts from around the world will come together to share their wisdom and insights. I'm Carol Maletta, founder of the Parenting 411. This summit is your opportunity to gain essential skills and tools to become the parent you've always aspired to be. Over 5 incredible days, we'll dive deep into topics like positive discipline, effective communication, mental health, self care, school readiness, and more. An attendee from our last summit told us, "This summit changed my parenting game. I feel more confident and connected with my children than ever before." So secure your seat at the Parent and Purpose Summit today. Visit parentandpurposesummit2023.com. That's Parent and Purpose Summit 2023.com. And click the registration button to join us on this transformative journey. The Parent and Purpose Summit, where intentional parenting begins. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
It really depends a lot on what the issues are.
Okay.
There's some issues that are um, easier to manage in a few sessions, and there are other issues that take a bit longer.
Mhm.
Um, and it depends on the relationship too. I've had clients that have been like done, they're good, but almost had to kick them out of therapy
Okay.
because I think there's so few places where we can be fully authentic and not worry about somebody else, right? We might be able to be fully authentic with our friends, but we
Mhm.
still have to balance our time with our friends in dealing with their problems and their challenges. But with
Mhm.
a therapist, it's all about you for that
Right.
time period. And
Right.
so there are not that many situations and places and times when it's all about you. Nobody has
Right.
to worry about whether when I'm the therapist, whether my kids got fed and, dropped off to school or are sick. They don't have to worry about that for the time we're together. I think that there are many situations like stress
Mhm.
that can be managed in a matter of a few weeks or a few months. And I think that there are other things like some major childhood traumas that may take a little bit longer.
Mhm.
Uh, so it really depends on people are, what kind of help people are seeking, determine how long. But that's one of the first things that you can discuss when you meet with a therapist. And if you don't want to do long-term therapy, then you and the therapist really focus on what are the challenges that you do want to focus on, and you really focus in on the problem so that you
Mhm.
can fit the shorter term.
I'm starting to wonder, especially with all the stories that we're hearing lately about workplace trauma for Black women in senior positions in corporate America, academia, the justice system, all of that. I wonder if a good psychologist is just good to have that place to talk. I mean, and because there's just so much. And I mean, as long as that career is fulfilling for you by and large, but you just might need a little help navigating these challenges that are sure to come up. I think it's probably a good practice, honestly.
I have a couple of clients, and that's it really that they are overall they're fine. There's no
Right.
problem with need a diagnosis, but they are one of the only in their
Hmm.
field,
Hmm.
professional fields. I have an engineer, I have lawyers, doctors, and they need a space and a place to process what they're going through and to sort out. One of the things that I think is so challenging with microaggressions
Right.
is really trying to sort out what's you like, because we all have things that we need to improve on, places that we need to do better, and none of us are perfect. So there are situations where we have been the problem, or at least part of the problem. What's you and what's really not you? What's really racism and sexism? And trying to sort that out can be complicated and difficult. And it can be especially challenging where if you're one of the few people at your job, then
Hmm.
you don't want to do it there, right?
Right.
It's hard to do it in when you're there, or and it may be hard to do it with the one other Black woman that's working there, right?
True.
Because for
They have
various
their own stuff.
they have their own stuff. So to have a safe space, both either individually with me, but that's part of what we provided Sister Piece as well, a safe space where you can process that stuff and let it go, keeps that stress from becoming chronic stress. It may
Mhm.
not solve whatever that problem is, but even sorting out, oh, wait, this part of it's me. And so I can work on communicating better. I can work on this. Fine. But this part of it is just straight racism, so
Right.
what can I do about that? And figuring and having a safe place to kind of sort out and figure out how you want to balance that. Do you want to change jobs? What do you want to do? Have that space is invaluable.
Mhm, mhm. And so that was my next, place I wanted to go was Sister Peace. Talk about that and where you're going with that and how you think that it can really impact lives and impact the world.
Well, our goal is to help more than 1 million Black women manage stress better. Right? To provide opportunities also for Black women to give back to their communities and address the economic disparities by training coaches to support other women,
Mhm,
and to educate the world about the experiences of Black women. Because again, stress is universal, but we especially have historical issues that add to our stress. So what we're providing right now is a community experience where we meet twice a month, right? Once a month is a free meeting that's open to all. And the
okay.
idea of this meeting is we're focused on Black women, but anybody can show up because if you are a boss and you happen to be, a Caucasian male boss, and you really care about the women that work for you, including the Black women, and you might not want to burden them by asking 3 zillion questions. But if you were to come to our meetings, you're going to get some more information about our experience.
That's
Just
good.
from being there, as well as your own opportunity to reduce stress. So, once a month, we have a meeting that is open to anybody and everybody, but it focuses on, Black women and stress. We talk about a quote or an African proverb, and we really kind of just talk about it and relate it to our own lives to reduce stress for all of us. And then once a month, we have a 90-minute meeting, and this is just for Black women who've signed up. But it's a 90-minute meeting where at this moment, I am the coach.
Okay.
Someday there may be other coaches that come through, but it's a group coaching experience. So then in the next one, we're going to be talking about our goals for the year. And we're going to have an opportunity as a group to all focus on what our goals are going to be and to support each other. So that meeting is only open to Black women. But to join, it's just $17 a month. So trying to make this accessible because although there are many professional Black women who can afford therapy with or without insurance, there are also many people who are what was called during the pandemic essential workers, right? People
Right.
who can't afford it but still need the support. And
Sure.
so Sister Peace is striving to make it accessible, make support accessible to everybody.
Okay. That sounds good. So how can we follow you? Your work at Sister Peace and everywhere.
And everywhere. I guess that the easiest place to start is at the website,
Okay.
sistapeace.com, sistapeace.com. And there you will find free resources. You'll find the information to sign up for the meetings that I just mentioned. And we are on LinkedIn, um, Instagram, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and TikTok is we're starting to branch out into TikTok these days. So you can find the links for all of that, but I think the best place to start is sisterpeace.com.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for joining today. I think you provided some wonderful tips. I do want to have you do the exercise before we go.
Yay. Okay.
So why don't you
Great.
do
I'm
that?
glad. Okay, and this doesn't take long. It takes as long for me to describe it as it does for us to do it. But
Okay.
basically, what we're doing is what I call the breath square.
Okay.
You're going to inhale for a slow count of 4. You're going to hold the breath into your lungs for a slow count of 4. You're going to exhale for a slow count of 4, and then you're going to wait before you inhale again as I slowly count to 4. And we're going to do that 4 times. When I lead this, I like to draw a square in the air. You can follow my finger. You can draw a square around whatever screen you're watching on, or you can close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice. I also like to say that, like in anything else, the first time you do something new, it may be a little tricky to follow. That's okay. Do the best you can. Jump back in if you get a little lost. That's no problem. But just like everything else, the more you practice, the better you get at it. And this is my go to. When I'm feeling stressed, this is my go to because you can do it anywhere, anytime. And if you do it 4 times, I've timed it. It takes 1 minute, but you will notice, you know, the stress reduction. So I want you to feel how you're feeling right now. How are you feeling, Carol?
I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm eager to do this.
Okay, so I want you to notice how you're feeling right now so you can see if you feel any difference when we're done.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Return to breathing as usual and tell me, how are you feeling now?
Very relaxing. I thought I was pretty relaxed before, but
Yeah,
Ah,
very relaxing. And that took a minute.
right.
So that's the kind of thing that you can do multiple times during the day.
Hmm.
Again, when you go to the bathroom, it's a great time because nobody's gonna yell at you for staying in the bathroom for an extra minute because people won't know, right? And and even though your stress level might continue to climb during the day, you're bringing it down every time you do that. So you're keeping your stress from becoming chronic and moving into toxic.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. So be sure to follow Sister Peace on all of the platforms that she shared with you. And I also invite all of our listeners to download a free gift that I have. They are fireproof quotes. They're really about um, affirming yourself and the fact that you can conquer what you're experiencing. I think it's a good match for what we talked about today. You can find it at bit.ly/fireproof2. That's bit.ly/fireproof2. Grab those quotes. And again, as I said, follow Dr. Akhu on all things inner peace. And remember that it is never too late to be the parent you want to be. Thank you for tuning in.